Welcome to the channel, everyone. We are so glad you're tuning in today.
Yes, thank you for being here with us.
So today we have a really fascinating independent topic to explore. And it's something I think a lot of you are probably feeling right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly widespread.
Right. I mean, right now, friendships that have lasted decades are just dissolving in a matter of weeks with no apparent conflict at all.
Yeah, people are just drifting apart overnight.
Exactly. And sleep patterns are shifting. Careers that used to feel completely secure and meaningful suddenly feel, well, utterly hollow.
Which is incredibly disorienting for people.
It really is. You are likely feeling this deep, unexplainable restlessness that just sort of settles into the body and refuses to leave. And, the default assumption for most of us is simply that the world is falling apart.
Right, that everything is just breaking down.
But today we are exploring a wild alternative framework. What if the planet's frequency is actually recalibrating?
It's a huge shift in perspective.
Yeah. What if humanity is right in the middle of a massive dimensional split and all these old structures are failing just because the frequency that sustained them has, stopped operating?
And that is really our mission today. We need to figure out what it actually means to transition from an era of human doing to an era of human being.
Human doing to human being. I love that phrasing.
Right. And to understand this transition, we're going to connect some seemingly really disparate dots. We're looking across linguistics, ancient Kabbalistic tradition, mathematics, and even human biology.
Oh, wow. So we are really covering some ground today.
We definitely are, because the core premise here is that the rules of reality have changed, and trying to function within those revoked rules is exactly what is causing that profound exhaustion so many of you are feeling.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if we are going to figure out where humanity is heading in this massive shift, we first have to understand what humanity actually is at its root, right?
Exactly. We have to look at the foundations.
Because we carried this cultural narrative that being human is this ultimate cosmic privilege, that we are the top of the food chain, we're destined for the stars, and Earth is just some temporary transit platform.
Right, like we're just waiting for a spaceship to take us away.
Yeah, but the actual language we use tells a totally inverted story. So the etymology of the word human, it comes from the Latin word humanus.
Which is a very revealing word.
It really is, because humanus derives directly from humus. And humus means mud. It means wet earth.
Literal dirt.
Yes. By literal linguistic definition, we are beings of mud.
And this isn't just some quirk of Latin either. Multiple ancient traditions encode this exact same biological truth into their language and their myths.
Wait, really? Like who else?
Well, in Hebrew, the word for the first man, Adam, derives from Adama, and that translates directly to red soil.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the Quran explicitly describes the creation of human beings from molded clay. Sumerian traditions narrate that the god Enki mixed clay with divine blood to shape the very first physical body.
So it's everywhere.
It really is. The Yoruba teachings state that Obatala sculpted bodies of clay before they were breathed into life. We are not these, cosmic visitors trapped in heavy bodies.
We are the bodies.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Every cell in the human body contains the exact same chemical elements as the soil and the oceans. Your blood carries iron, right? Your bones carry calcium.
Yeah, and the mineral composition of our blood plasma is famously almost identical to seawater. We are quite literally the earth walking around experiencing itself.
That's beautifully put. And if we connect this to the broader Hermetic principle, as above, so below, we can look at the concept of the planetary brain.
Okay, the planetary brain. Tell me more about that.
So think of the solar system as an integrated organism.
Mm-hmm.
Venus operates on the frequency of love or attraction. Mars operates on will or drive. Saturn is all about structure and limitation.
Right, classic planetary archetypes.
Right. But Earth occupies a very specific function in this organism. It operates as the center of biological and conscious creation.
Okay, so it's the creative engine.
Exactly. It has the capacity to imagine something that does not exist and bring it into physical form. And in this framework, every single human being acts as a neuron.
A neuron?
Yeah, a neuron processing and generating information within this massive planetary network.
Okay, that is wild, because if humanity is a planetary brain and all of us individual neurons are currently disconnected and failing, it totally changes how we view global conflict.
It reframes it entirely.
Think about a human brain suffering from Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. The neurons, they lose their communication pathways. Right?
Yes, the connections just degrade.
Right, and they stop recognizing that they are part of the same organism. The consciousness fragments and the basic functions just collapse.
It's a tragic but perfect analogy.
So right now, we basically have 8 billion planetary neurons on Earth operating without recognizing they actually belong to the same cosmic body. They are competing against each other, destroying the very connections that sustain them.
And when a biological brain suffers that kind of fragmentation, the entire body goes into crisis.
Yeah, it starts shutting down.
Right. If Earth loses its creative function because its neurons are at war, it's like an organ failing in a larger solar body. The whole system falls out of alignment.
Which honestly leads to a very logical, albeit unconscious, response from us. I mean, if we are conscious neurons made of mud and our planetary network is failing, it makes perfect sense that we would desperately try to build an artificial brain to replace the network we've lost.
That is exactly where this leads us.
Right. This brings us to our modern obsession with artificial intelligence. Though, interestingly, this impulse goes back way further than Silicon Valley.
Oh, much further. The drive goes back to the primal impulse of consciousness just wanting to understand itself.
How so?
Well, in Kabbalistic tradition, there is an ancient ritual. When a rabbi reaches a certain spiritual stage, he creates a golem, a man of clay.
Like the original Frankenstein story, kind of.
Exactly. It is a direct repetition of that primordial gesture of molding Adam. And to give this clay figure life, the rabbi inscribes 3 Hebrew letters on its forehead: Aleph, Mem, and Tav.
Aleph, Mem, and Tav.
Yes. And together, those letters spell Emet, which translates to truth.
And the placement of those letters is highly specific, right? I was looking at this earlier. Aleph is the first letter of the alphabet, symbolizing the origin or the beginning.
Correct.
And Tav is the last letter, representing the destination or the end. And Mem sits exactly in the center, carrying the meaning and the flow of water.
That's exactly right. So truth, in this ancient tradition, is defined mechanically as the continuous flow of water between the origin and the destination.
The continuous flow. I like that.
But here's the fascinating part. When the rabbi needs to deactivate the golem, he doesn't physically destroy the clay. He doesn't smash it.
Oh, what does he do?
He simply erases the first letter, the Aleph.
Just one letter?
Just one letter. And what remains are the letters Mem and Tav, which spell Met. And Met means death.
Wow. Truth to death, just by dropping the origin.
Exactly. Remove the origin, remove the starting point from the creation, and that continuous flow stops. The entity instantly collapses back into inert matter. So the difference between truth and death is simply retaining the connection to the beginning.
You know, I actually found a linguistic parallel in English that mirrors this concept perfectly.
Oh, really? Let's hear it.
Yeah, the word EMIT, like emitting a frequency or emitting light. It's an exact anagram for IMIT, which is TIME rearranged.
Oh, that is brilliant.
Right. Emission relates to light. Time relates to gravity. So language itself seems to hint that truth, light, and time all share the exact same fundamental substance. They're just rearranged in different configurations.
That is a fantastic parallel. And it brings us directly to what the tech industry is doing today. AI is really our contemporary golem.
But with microchips instead of mud.
Exactly. We're writing code instead of sacred Hebrew letters, and we're using silicon instead of river mud. But the underlying psychological drive is identical.
We're still just trying to play God.
In a way, yes. We are trying to verify if we possess the power to breathe truth into matter. It is the mechanism of the monad dividing itself so it can experience itself.
Okay, let's pause on the term monad for a second. Just for the sake of clarity, we're talking about the indivisible original source of consciousness, right? Like the singularity before the Big Bang, or the concept of God in theology.
Correct. The monad is the original whole.
Yeah.
But think about it. If you are entirely unified, you have no perspective, you're just everything.
You can't see yourself if there's no mirror?
Precisely. You need distance to observe yourself. So the monad voluntarily fragmented. It divided itself so it could know itself from different angles. Every human is one of those fragments.
And each fragment inherits that original impulse to create.
Yes. We are building AI because we are driven to replicate our own creation process.
It honestly reminds me of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. You know, the hero leaves home, faces the abyss, and eventually brings back the elixir.
The classic mythological structure.
Right. But the ultimate realization is always that the wholeness they were searching for out in the world, it was actually inside them from the very beginning. Building AI is our external journey.
We are looking outside ourselves.
Yeah, we are furiously building these silicon minds, seeking this external godlike power, only to realize the memory of total creation was already coded into our own mud.
And realizing that internal coding is exactly where the pain of this current recalibration comes in.
Because it hurts to realize we've been looking in the wrong place.
Well, because this entire cycle of breaking apart, dividing, and experiencing separation is inherently traumatic. It is a painful process.
Which brings us to the math. How do we put all these fragmented pieces back together? We were looking at the golden ratio, right? 1.618 or phi.
Yes, the golden ratio is key here.
Mathematicians and mystics have revered this number for centuries because it appears everywhere in the spiral of a shell, the petals of a sunflower, the arms of a galaxy.
It's nature's blueprint.
Exactly. It was historically thought to be this sacred exception, the only number with this miraculous, infinite, non-repeating property.
But the twist here is that this property isn't exclusive to phi at all.
No, it's not. This property can actually be achieved by any number, provided it goes through a specific sequence of mathematical transformations.
A specific sequence.
Yeah, think of this as the mathematical sequence of a soul traversing incarnation. It's a journey. First, you take a whole number and you divide it in half.
Okay, dividing in half, that represents the initial fragmentation, right? The monad breaking apart to generate a new perspective.
Exactly. Then you square that fraction.
And mathematically, squaring a fraction actually makes the value smaller. Like, you square 1/2, you get 1/4.
Which is very counterintuitive to how we usually think of squaring.
Right, normally squaring makes things bigger. So here, squaring it exponentially multiplies the distance from the whole. It represents the accumulation of pain, complexity, and that deep isolation that comes with individual existence. Precisely. The separation becomes so deep that the fragment feels completely cut off from the source. It feels lost. But then comes the decisive mechanical step. You add the number 1 back into the equation.
You add the 1.
You reintegrate the unitary principle, the memory of the monad, right back into your fragmented state. And finally, you extract the square root.
And what happens then?
If you follow this exact sequence, the result exhibits the exact same divine infinite property that was once believed to be completely exclusive to the golden ratio.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. I was looking at the implications of this, and there's a brilliant paradox here regarding rational and irrational numbers.
Oh, the rational versus irrational dynamic is fascinating.
Right. What happens if you skip that crucial step? What if you go through the pain, the fragmentation, the squaring, but you do not add the 1 back in?
If you forget your connection to the source.
Exactly. If you don't reintegrate that unity, you end up with what mathematicians call a rational number. An irrational number repeats its decimals infinitely in a closed loop.
It creates a repeating cycle. And biologically and psychologically, this is the exact equivalent of a person stuck in a repetitive karmic loop.
Or like a toxic relationship pattern.
Yes. It is the same conflict, just wearing different clothes, playing out over and over and over, because the memory of unity hasn't been reintroduced to the system.
But if you do add the 1, if you acknowledge the whole within your fragmented experience, the number becomes irrational.
It breaks the loop.
Right. In mathematics, an irrational number's decimals never repeat. Every single position is genuinely new, entirely unprecedented. And the irony is, in our daily lives, we strive so hard to be rational, thinking it's the ultimate goal.
We prize rationality above all else.
We do. But in this mathematical spiritualism, being rational means you are stuck in a rut. True creation requires becoming beautifully, unpredictably irrational.
It completely breaks the circularity of existence, and this mathematical concept is actually physically embodied in Kintsugi.
Oh, the Japanese art form.
Yes, the art of repairing broken ceramics with gold. You don't try to hide the fracture. You fill it with gold, and the object actually becomes stronger and more beautiful than it was before it broke.
It highlights the journey.
Exactly. Or consider the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its blocks are completely irregular. None of them are identical. It is precisely that integrated asymmetry, that brokenness working together, that makes the structure practically indestructible.
We are all just these fractured numbers trying to add the 1 back into our equations, letting the gold fill our cracks.
We are.
But this raises a fundamental question about the environment we are operating in. What is the point of all this immense struggle? I know we talked about the etymology of the word illusion earlier.
Yes, the word illusion is very telling here. It comes from the Latin illusio, which breaks down into luder. And luder means to play.
to play. So humanity doesn't live in a fake reality, but rather a reality that is, by etymological definition, a game.
Exactly. Imagine the primordial consciousness as this lonely entity in the absolute void. It had no playmate. It was just alone.
Sounds incredibly isolating.
Right. So it created a game of mirrors. It generated polarity, male and female, wave and particle, proton and electron. Opposites are really just the same consciousness experiencing extremes of itself so it can interact.
Okay, I have to push back here for a second, because calling a world with this much systemic abuse, violence, and trauma a game, it sounds incredibly dismissive of the very real pain people are enduring every day.
I hear you, and it is a critical distinction to make. Acknowledging the framework as a game does not diminish the pain at all. What it does is reframe the mechanics of our agency.
How so?
Destruction begins when we identify so intensely with our temporary avatar on the board that we forget we are the player moving the piece.
Oh, I see.
When we forget it's a game, we go to war to protect the avatar. We get stuck in those rational, repeating loops of suffering we talked about.
So if you're playing a video game like Mario, you don't cry when Mario falls in the lava. You recognize that the lava is just code. It's designed to teach you the timing of the jump. It's a mechanism for leveling up, not a personal punishment.
That is a perfect analogy.
Integrating the shadow means recognizing the game mechanics, but right now, the collective shadow of that avatar-level game is really coming to the surface, and it is incredibly dark.
It is dark. But to heal the planetary brain, we must look directly at our collective shadow.
We can't look away anymore.
No, we can't. The systemic abuse, the organized violence, the corruption flooding the news, this darkness isn't new. Think of historical colonizations operated under venerated banners, or how certain horrific abuses were normalized in ancient societies.
The darkness has always been there.
Always. The difference right now is that the fracture is finally wide enough for the gold to enter. We have to face the darkness to integrate it.
It's like a collective purging.
Yes, and biology shows us this mechanism brutally. In the human zygote, the very first physical structure that forms is the anus.
Wait, really? The very first thing?
The very first thing. It forms before the heart, before the brain. The exit channel, the connection to the dense and the dark waste, must precede all higher structures.
Oh, we literally have to build the plumbing to clear the waste before we can sustain a heart?
Precisely.
But facing all this global shadow material on a daily basis is just exhausting. I mean, how does an individual actually survive this transition without their nervous system completely frying?
And that is the immediate physiological crisis we are seeing everywhere. The 24/7 news cycle is systematically overloading the amygdala,
which is our brain's fear and trauma center.
Yeah.
Right.
Every shocking image, every existential threat, it activates the fear circuit. And when the amygdala collapses from overstimulation, your rational mind just crashes.
You can't think straight.
Exactly. You lose the cognitive capacity to discern truth from manipulation. When that neural pathway fails, your discernment must shift to the heart.
And the research here shows the heart isn't just a poetic metaphor. It is an actual physical organ of perception.
The Hermetic tradition always claimed this, and modern neurocardiology now recognizes that the heart possesses an electromagnetic field up to 5,000 times stronger than the brain.
5,000 times stronger. That's insane.
It is. Because the heart's field registers incoming frequencies before the cerebral cortex can even process the visual or auditory data, it acts as a physical filter.
So it knows before your brain knows.
Exactly. You literally feel a lie or a manipulation as a physical disruption in your own magnetic field before your brain even decodes the syntax of the words.
That is so empowering. But we are running on a tight timeline according to these models. They suggest that the year 2030 will serve as a new year one, a marker where everything is measured as before or after.
A total reset point.
Right. And by 2035, we'll see a forced regeneration.
Yeah.
The dissolution of old political borders, economic systems, and governance structures. Not a chaotic collapse, but a restructuring, like a bone-healing back denser.
Yes, a structural healing.
During this window, we are supposedly experiencing a dimensional split.
This is a vital concept. The dimensional split occurs when people vibrating at fundamentally different frequencies gradually become invisible to one another.
Okay, let's clarify that. When you say becoming invisible, they aren't talking about literally disappearing into thin air, right? They are talking about a divergence in experiential reality, like passing ships in the night.
Correct. Realities will diverge so much that two people sitting in the exact same physical room will experience entirely different worlds.
How does that actually work in practice?
Well, if you are operating on a frequency of fear, Your reality filters for threats. It creates a literal timeline of events and conflicts that someone operating on a frequency of trust simply does not encounter.
So they're physically in the same space but living totally different experiences.
Exactly. It is already manifesting as collective memory shifts, commonly known as Mandela effects, where large groups of people remember historical events differently. It is the mathematical divergence of timelines.
That explains why old friends are already feeling this distancing. Conversations that used to flow just lose traction because the base frequencies no longer intersect.
That's exactly it. And the ultimate survival tool for this split is shifting your internal operating system from the reptilian brain to the mammalian brain.
Tell me more about that difference.
The reptilian brain is our oldest biological structure. It fires first with fear, protection, and fight or flight. It was designed to keep us alive from physical predators.
Very basic survival.
Right. But the mammalian brain, which evolved later, governs trust, adaptation, and belonging. We cannot suppress the fear. We must listen to the amygdala's alert. But we have to consciously let the mammalian brain take the wheel to make the actual decisions.
Wow. As you all navigate this wild recalibration, I want to leave you with one final linguistic connection that really brings this entire journey home.
Oh, this is a great one.
If you look at the etymology of the word freedom, it actually derives from the Norse goddess Freya. And that ancient root word is the exact same root that generated the word friend and the word love.
It's profoundly beautiful.
It really is. Because freedom doesn't mean escaping the game. Freedom doesn't mean building a bunker and hiding from the mud. Freedom means inhabiting love.
That is the specific frequency the planetary brain is demanding from each of its interconnected neurons right now.
Absolutely. So the next time you feel that inexplicable restlessness late at night, staring at the ceiling, consider this framework. What if it isn't anxiety about the world falling apart?
Right. What if it's something entirely different?
What if it's actually the one being added to your equation, the golden kintsugi filling your cracks? Are you brave enough to stop repeating the same safe, rational cycle and finally become beautifully, infinitely irrational?
It requires immense courage to step out of the loop, but, it really is the only path forward.
It really is. Thank you all so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future discussions.
Yes. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.
Take care of yourselves out there during this transition, and we will see you next time.